Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello friends, welcome to this lecture series of BSc with Chemistry, discipline specific elective of quantum chemistry, spectroscopy and photochemistry. In this lecture, we will discuss Raman spectroscopy. So friends, what is Raman spectroscopy? Raman spectroscopy is a special type of spectroscopy which deals not only with the absorption of electromagnetic radiation, but with the scattering of light by the molecule. Professor C.V. Raman of Calcutta University discovered the phenomena in 1928 and therefore it is named as Raman spectroscopy. What he discovered, what he has studied, he has irradiated some samples with the visible radiation and he observed the scattered light at right angle to the direction of incidence. What he observed is interesting. He observed that this scattered light consists of three types of lines. Those are Rayleigh line, Stokes line and anti-Stokes lines. So what are these lines? Rayleigh lines are those lines having same frequency as that of the incident radiation. And since this phenomena was discovered previously by Rayleigh, they are named as Rayleigh lines. Secondly, the lines with the lower frequency than the incident frequency, they are called as Stokes lines. And further, the lines with the higher frequency than the incident frequency called as anti-Stokes lines. Now, the shift in the frequency of a particular scattered line, that is nu s, we call it as nu, from that of the incident radiation, that is nu I, it is called as Raman frequency or Raman shift. We can see here. So basically this nu I is the frequency of incident radiation and nu s is the frequency of scattered line. What Sir Raman has observed? Sir Raman has observed that the value of Raman shift is a characteristic of that particular substance and therefore it has become or gained the value. Actually, it is independent of the frequency of incident radiation and basically this effect is called as Raman effect. It plays a very vital role and important role in the molecular structure determination. We will see one by one. Now, in this case, we can see that when a substance is irradiated with radiation, the light photon strikes the molecule and the collision between the photon and molecule may or may not be perfectly elastic. So based on that, these three possibilities are there as we have seen in the previous slide. Now, such a scattered photon has the same frequency as that of the incident photon and this leads to Rayleigh line. You can see here. This is perfectly elastic. Whereas if it transfers some of its energy to the molecule and scatters with the lower energy, then it has the lower frequency and then Stokes lines are observed, which are inelastic scattering. Now, if the other possibility is that if it gains some extra energy from the molecule, it has higher frequency after scattering and it leads to anti-Stokes line. In this figure also we can see the Stokes line, anti-Stokes line, and this is basically known as a Raman shift and this is what is Rayleigh scattering, named after Rayleigh, isn't it? Further, say if you try to see the experimental setup and the selection rule, say for a molecule which is IR active, what is the basic condition to be IR active? That its dipole moment should change in its vibrational mode. But this is not the case with Raman spectroscopy, and what is the speciality of this spectroscopy? Molecule scatters light because it is polarizable, and when a molecule is placed in electric field, the induced dipole moment is given by particularly this equation: mu is equal to alpha E. What is this alpha? This alpha is the polarizability of the molecule. It is the ratio of induced dipole moment to the strength of electric field. That is what is given. And this is basically is the experimental setup of Raman spectrometer. Now, when a molecule is placed in electric field, the induced dipole moment, whatever it is, it can be determined with this particular equation. And the quantity alpha, as we have seen, is the polarizability of the molecule. And therefore, the polarizability, what we see, we can utilize the property of this polarizability, that it is the ratio of induced dipole moment to the strength of electric field. And the criteria for a molecule basically to show the Raman spectra is basically that its polarizability must change due to transition. So like in IR spectra, to get IR spectra, we need the molecule in molecule dipole moment to be changed. So the criteria here is that its polarizability must change due to transition. Now it may be vibrational or rotational transition, whatever it is. Now say for example, if you consider the molecule with the spherical top structure like methane or SF6, etc., they are isotropically polarizable. What does it mean? It means that the extent of polarization is independent of the direction of applied field, correct? And these molecules are inactive in Raman spectroscopy. Whereas now the molecules other than the spherical top molecules are anisotropic, and they are anisotropically polarizable. And hence the extent of polarization depends upon the direction of applied field. And therefore such molecules are Raman active. And therefore all the diatomic molecules which we cannot use in IR spectroscopy or in rotational spectra, all such diatomic molecules are Raman active, and that is known as mutual exclusion rule. So the vibration which is active in IR is inactive in Raman, and the vibration which is inactive in IR is active in Raman, isn't it? That is what is the interesting part of the spectroscopy. Let us look at the experimental arrangement of Raman spectrometer. Raman spectrometer consists of an intense source of radiation, which is basically the mercury vapor lamp. Nowadays, we do not use mercury vapor lamp because it has been replaced by laser. You know what is laser? That is light amplification by stimulated emission of radiation. What is its importance? It gives the high intensity monochromatic light, basically. That is what is its purpose. So basically the intensity has to be very high because the light has to be scattered, and whatever scattered light we get, that is of very low intensity, and therefore the intensity of the incident light should be very high, and therefore the monochromatic light is allowed to incident with this higher intensity on a sample which is kept in a special type of cell. This is horn shaped sample container. There is a specific reason for keeping such shape of this particular sample container, because this particular sample container is made up of glass or quartz, and depending on the radiation whatever we use, and the shape basically is the typically horn shape, and why we use this particular horn shaped sample container is because we should avoid the direction of reflection of radiation. Otherwise the reflection will go directly to the detector, and it may interfere, and therefore we do not want any reflection at right angle to it, and therefore we use this horn shaped light source. Now at right angle to the incident radiation, there the slit which we have provided a lens and a prism, and the system is followed by the photographic plate, as you can see over here. Nowadays, instead of this photographic plate, we use the detector, which acts as the electronic detector. You can use any photomultiplier tube, and that can enhance the receiving signals. moving ahead to the selection rule. The selection rule for this, as we have seen, is the polarizability of molecule must change due to rotation. That is the primary condition to be IR to be Raman active. And the secondly, change in rotational quantum number should be either 0 or plus minus 2. That is what is the basic condition. That means the selection rule is delta J is equal to 0 or plus minus 2. Because this delta J is equal to 0 corresponds to relay line, and delta J is equal to minus 2 corresponds to Stokes line, while delta J is equal to plus 2 corresponds to anti-Stokes line. Now, let us look at the appearance of pure rotational Raman spectra. There are several factors. One of the factor is position of spectral lines. Now, in spectral lines, the rotational energy level in terms of wave number for a rigid diatomic molecule is usually given by this particular formula. This we have seen already in rotational spectroscopy, B into J plus 1. And the selection rule for the pure rotational Raman spectra for diatomic molecule, as we have seen earlier, delta J is equal to 0 to plus minus 0 and plus minus 2. So if I consider transition from J is equal to J plus 2, the frequency of transition will be given by particularly this. And we can find out this B into 4J plus 6. And this J, as we all know, this is the rotational quantum number. And this J is for the lower rotational energy. That is what is mentioned here. And therefore, we get the relay line at frequency of nu I, that is original of this, and the various line on either side of this will be given by plus minus delta nu. So nu I plus minus delta nu. So plus for positive side, negative side will be whenever we get frequency of lower side, then the incident we get with this formula. And therefore for J is equal to 0, we get relay line with this. For J is equal to 1, we get this. J is equal to 2, we get this, and so on. And as we go on going higher and higher, 4B difference will go on indicating. Basically, this negative sign indicates the Stokes line, while the positive sign indicates the anti-Stokes line, as said earlier. And the separation between two Stokes or anti-Stokes line is obviously 4V. Let us have a look at it. So in this case, if we try to see, as seen in our previous slide, what we have seen that the intensities of these lines, but they are dependent on the population of initial level from where the molecules are supposed to excite or say de-excite. And since the population of rotational energy level increases first and then decreases, the intensities of Stokes and anti-Stokes lines they vary in this similar manners, but they will first increase and then decrease. So if you try to see, this is a particular part wherein you can have at this particular level relay line. These are the Stokes line, these are the anti-Stokes lines. Let us have a look at the vibrational rotation Raman spectra. Now for vibrational rotation Raman spectra, say for example diatomic molecule, the selection rule is particularly given by this delta J is equal to 0 plus minus 2, isn't it? And for vibration, this is delta V is equal to plus minus 1. So if I take the molecule at room temperature, diatomic molecule at room temperature, then most of the molecule exist in the ground vibrational energy level, that is V is equal to 0. And so the spectra corresponding to V is equal to 0 to 1 is particularly shown over here. Now it clearly shows three branches of the line. The first line is a series of line corresponding to delta J is equal to minus 2, and these are called as O branch or O band. You can see here. And all of them, they are called as Stokes line. See, delta J is equal to minus 2 here, and therefore lesser frequencies will be obtained than the incident one. Now a series of lines corresponding to delta J is equal to 0 is called as Q branch or Q band here. That is relay scattering. And a series of lines corresponding to delta J is equal to plus 2 is called as S branch or S band. They are anti-Stokes lines, as discussed earlier. So friends, let us now see the applications of this Raman spectroscopy. Now herein, if you see, as the bond is stretched, the bond becomes more polarizable, and the polarizability ellipsoids shrink in size basically. And also there is a change in size of the polarizability ellipsoids. Now during the compression, it expands basically in size, you can imagine, and we can have the means for determining the strengths of, say, bond of homonuclear molecules. Similarly, if you see the examples of polyatomic molecules, say, take the example of carbon dioxide, it is a triatomic linear molecule. Now it is an interesting case. Herein we can see that the normal modes of vibrations are given by 3n minus 5, that is 4 in carbon dioxide, and these 4 modes of vibrations, you can see symmetric stretching and asymmetric stretching, in plane bending and out of plane bending. This is a usual thing, or 4 modes of vibration that we have seen in our IR spectroscopy also. However, out of these 4 modes, the symmetrical stretching vibration does not produce any change in dipole moment, and hence such vibration is IR inactive. Whereas the asymmetric stretching vibrations are accompanied by change in dipole moment, and hence it is IR active. Similarly, the 2 bending vibrations, they are also IR active. It is apparent from the animation shown here, and the energy required in both of them is equal, and hence the bending vibrations are degenerate. However, in Raman spectroscopy, the 2 of these modes, as we see, they are degenerate bending modes, and the symmetric stretch mode is similar to the stretching mode of a diatomic molecule, and the polarizability ellipsoid varies in size as the molecule vibrates, and this mode of vibration is consequently Raman active, isn't it? This is an interesting fact. In fact, the rate of change of polarizability with the normal coordinates is very large, and the symmetric vibrations are very intense in this case, basically in Raman spectroscopy. And therefore, now if we consider the bending mode case, which is very active in IR spectroscopy, the molecule changes its appearance from a linear molecule to a bent one during the course of this vibration. And obviously, there is a change in polarizability of the molecule as the molecule vibrates. Now, in antisymmetric stretch too, what we see, like if you again go for antisymmetric stretch, the polarizability ellipsoids decreases in size during the vibration, and both of these molecules, both of these modes are Raman inactive from that point of view. And therefore, we can see that the application of from the application of group theory, both of these vibrations, they have the symmetric polarizability change, and they both of them, they become Raman inactive. Similarly, if you go for, say, water molecule, in water molecule, the similar is the case of triatomic molecule, which is a non-linear molecule. The normal modes of vibrations are 3n minus 6, that is 3, which is shown over here: symmetric stretching, symmetric bending, and asymmetric stretching. So these 3 modes are shown over here, and all of these modes are accompanied by the change in dipole moment, and so all of them, they are IR active. Also, we see that they require different energies, and all of them, they are non-degenerate. However, in Raman spectroscopy, the variation of the polarizability ellipsoid clearly indicates that all of the modes are Raman active, isn't it? So that is a great outcome of this Raman spectroscopy. Similarly, if we see the other applications of Raman spectroscopy, and one of the important application of rotational Raman spectroscopy is that we can determine the moment of inertia and the bond length of various molecules. Say, for example, for the homonuclear diatomic molecule which do not show microwave spectra, they also can be studied using the Raman spectroscopy. The rotational Raman spectrum of the diatomic molecule show equally spaced lines at the separation of 4b that we have seen in the spectra, and the value of B, that is related to moment of inertia, and you can actually find out from this value of B, we can find out the moment of inertia, and from the value of moment of inertia, we can find out the bond length. So due to these properties of Raman spectroscopy, it is considered as complementary to IR spectroscopy. if in conclusion we go for the comparison of IR and Raman spectra, so Raman spectra is basically shown by those molecules whose dipole moment changes due to vibration or rotation. Also, for selection rules for IR spectroscopy are this change in vibrational states are plus minus 1 and rotational states are plus minus 1, while the selection rule for Raman spectroscopy are plus minus 1 for vibrational states and plus 0 plus minus 2 for rotational states. In IR spectroscopy, it is confined only to IR radiations, while Raman spectra is independent of frequency of incident radiation and it can be observed in visible region as well. In case of homonuclear diatomic molecules like hydrogen, nitrogen, and all of such molecules cannot be studied using IR spectroscopy, while these molecules can be studied equally by the Raman spectroscopy. And finally, the modes of vibrations which are inactive in IR spectroscopy are really active in Raman spectroscopy. Say, for example, with what we have seen, the symmetric stretching in CO2 is IR inactive because it does not lead to change in dipole moment, but it is active in Raman spectroscopy because it leads to change in polarizability of the molecule that we have seen. That's it, friend, in this Raman spectroscopy discussion. Thank you.